So you want to tattoo new school, but every single one of your designs looks flat, the colors don't pop, and the final piece just looks like a little bit of a mess, okay? Now you might be able to draw this stuff good on iPad, but as soon as it comes to skin, you just can't crack it. I can tell you after 13 years of tattooing, it's not because that you suck, it's just because you haven't learned these 4 basic depth principles to make any new school piece look good. So today I'm going to be reviewing one of our subscribers' tattoos. I'm going to show you what those 4 principles are, where they missed them on the tattoo, as well as tattoo the fixed version on fake skin so you can actually see how it should look side by side with the original, and then you can then apply it to your next tattoo. By the way, if you want me to do a free review of your tattoo on a future video, the link is in the description down below. Fill out the form, takes about 30 seconds. So to start with, I'm going to show you the first principle that they missed that makes this skull look completely flat instead of a 3D form. So on this skull, the black is packed in and it hits a hard edge instead of fading into the next tone. So in new school, that kills the entire look. Everything should be nice and smooth, but right now there's an obvious step between the scratchy, packed in black and the lighter grays. It's even worse in the smaller parts of the design, like the eye socket, where they've packed in a bunch of solid black and they've got no room left to fade it out. So yeah, they've kind of checkmated themselves right there. If you still want to put some blacks into a smaller part of the design, you've really got to feather them in super light so you can still throw a layer of color over the top and get a smooth blend. So here's what it looks like when it's done right. On my version, the blacks don't just suddenly stop. They're evenly whipped out, so there's no obvious steps between when the values change because the fade is so smooth. I don't need a bunch of extra transitional colors to go from a dark to a light color. The transition is already there and it makes it much, much easier to blend. And even in the tight spots, I didn't just slam in full black. I brushed it in very lightly first, and then I placed the next color on top of it so I can get a clean fade without running out of space, without everything going super dark. So let's take a look at how you can fade your blacks out like this in your next tattoo. What I do is I use my fingers as a guard so that I can't physically sink too deep and hack up the skin. And then I build up the black in light passes, a gentle back and forth motion until it's as dark as I want. If it starts to look uneven, I just crosshatch lightly to smooth it out, and the flatter the mag, the less pigment goes in. Okay, the more of an angle that I go in with each pass, the faster it saturates. And one more thing, dynamic black is super thin, so you can actually pack it in with a 10 gauge needle. And if you're having trouble getting your fades nice and clean, this is going to make it a lot easier, but just make sure that you switch back to a 12 gauge needle when you switch to the colored inks. Okay, so we've smoothed out the shading, but there is still a lot more to do here. The entire composition is still completely flat for a different reason, so check this out. All right, so the next problem is that the perspective is way off on the pencil. The tip is bigger, which is great, but the eraser doesn't quite shrink down enough. So instead of looking like a pencil that's angled away from your face, it just looks like a flat pencil. And on top of that, the line weight is basically the same width all the way down. So when the front and the back are the same size and the same line weight, your eye just reads the whole thing as flat. So here's how I fixed it. I made the eraser smaller so that it clearly sits further in the background, and then I thickened up the outline towards the tip so that the front edge pops forward. I also softened the lines on the parts of the crossbone that go behind the pencil and put them in a green instead of a black so they fall further back behind that thick black outline. And right along the edge of the pencil, I left a clean negative space for a highlight, which is just going to bring it forward even more and just give it the maximum amount of punch. I'll show you how to do that a little bit later on in the video, but for now, let's just focus on the perspective and the line weights first. Now, before I tattoo anything, I take it right back to the iPad and I set a simple vanishing point so I'm not guessing. And that guide is going to tell me exactly how much smaller the eraser needs to get as it goes backwards. And then when I tattoo it, I use a 14 round liner for the entire pencil, but then I pull out a 5 round shader to thicken up the line towards the top of the pencil. Just make sure that when you brush it in, you do it in a way that's angled towards the line that you just did so that you don't get any soft edges in the thicker line. But if you do, it's not the end of the world. All you got to do is just go in with a 3 round liner to clean it up. It will take a little bit longer, but you'll get it nice and clean. All right, so now that the pencil is sorted, we fixed this perspective. The next issue that we've got to work on is the crossbones that's colliding with the skull. Now, the reason that's a problem is because the foreground and the middle ground are merging together. The right crossbone is the same tone as the cheek next to it, so you can't really tell what's in front and what's behind, and everything is sitting in that middle ground, and the whole tattoo just flattens out because of it. All I did to fix this was separate them. I added a little bit of extra space between the skull and the crossbone, and I just thickened the outline on the cheek to pull that skull forward, and where the bone passes behind the pencil, instead of outlining it in black, I just shaded it in with a darker green, and that lighter, softer value pushed it further behind the pencil. So the main thing to take away here is that line weights are not the only tool that you have to push stuff forward and pull stuff back, but you can also adjust how dark that line is to determine whether it's in the foreground, the middle ground, or the background. A line that is lighter is going to fall behind a darker line every single time. So to get this effect in your next tattoo, you just treat it the same as any other. You do your dark colors first to prevent the staining, and then you add in your lights afterwards. When I'm putting my blacks and my mid-tone colors, I leave a negative space towards the pencil so that I have room to put in my greens. And then you can see as the lines get closer towards the pencil, instead of doing them black and I want to soften them, I will switch to a darker green so that they fall even further behind that thicker outline on the pencil. And then I pack in white with a 5 round shader next to that negative space that we left next to that thick power line on the pencil. Now, the main takeaway from this is that it's not just your line weights that you can use to bring stuff forward and push stuff back. If you lighten up the value, you can also make things fall back towards darker lines and darker parts of the design. Last call on the free review submissions for the next one of these videos. Links in the description, takes 30 seconds. So now things are the right size and they're sitting at the right depth. There's one more thing that's killing the 3D effect on this tattoo, and it's the biggest one of all. It is the light source, okay? If you look at the light source on this skull, it's completely cooked. On the upper left edge, okay, there's some really dark shading, but in the middle of the noggin, it's a bright skin break that suggests the line's coming from the top left. Because the light source is inconsistent, I can't really make sense of it, and that heavy shaded patch should actually be one of the brightest parts of the design. But the light keeps changing depending on where you look at the design, and the eye ridges have highlights in the wrong place, the teeth are one flat tone across all of the grooves, and the crossbone highlight flips to the opposite side, so there's no consistent direction that the light is coming from, which makes the entire thing just flatten out. So here's what it looks like when we correct that. The first thing I did was I picked a light source on the top left, and I made every single surface follow suit. So anything that is catching the light, the teeth, the brow ridge, the top edges of the cranium, they all get lighter values, and then anything that's hidden, like underneath the cheeks or inside of the eye socket, they get those darker values. So my highlights and my lightest colors are only on parts of the design that are facing the light, so then that source of light now looks much more consistent and the entire design looks much more lifelike. The way that we fix this is by treating this design like a sculpture, okay? You need to pick out the parts that are going to be facing towards the light. They're gonna get a bit brighter, and then the surfaces that are tucked under and hidden from the light are gonna be darker. So what you wanna do is pick a direction and ask, would this surface see the sun? If yes, brighten it up. If not, shade it. And you wanna do that consistently across the entire tattoo so that it looks more realistic in 3D. So there you go, there's 4 fixes that will take a new school tattoo from looking like it was drawn with crayons to something that actually has depth and life to it. The first one, fade out your blacks, okay? No hard stops. You wanna make sure that you're feathering out all of your shading nice and smooth. And in the tight spots where you don't have a whole lot of room to fade out your blends, just put in a light amount of black so you can throw a color over the top of it and you need less space to blend it out. The second one is you wanna fix your perspective, okay? Stuff that's further back is gonna be smaller, and stuff that's closer to your eye is going to be lighter, and the line thickness should match that depth. You also want to separate your layers, make sure that you use your line weights as well as your values to convey back, middle, and foreground. And you want to pick one light source. Treat it like a sculpture. If it faces the sun, brighten it. If it doesn't, shade it. Now, all this stuff is going to help you a lot, but I'll be real with you. Most tattoos are busted long before the stencil even hits the skin. If you want to tattoo stuff like this, then you absolutely need to be able to draw. So if you want some help with that, I got you. Check out this video here where it shows you how to actually design tattoos to look professional and flow with the shape of the body.